Hello, this is old Mr. Kent of MrKent.com, and in a previous video I showed how at a certain construction site they had to taper whenever they dig a trench, they'd taper it because the ground was soft enough that it would cave in on the men below. And at this other site that we're heading to, I didn't see them doing that, so I thought, well, I'm going to see if something's changed or if that just happens to be the way they did it at the last site, because they were using ground that had been tilled and everything for who knows how many years because it was farmland. But over here it was all sagebrush, so that might be why they didn't do that. Anyway, we'll see if we can figure out an answer, and while we're doing that, I'm going to tell you another story, and this story is concerning the walls of Jericho. Now, I don't know of anybody who hasn't heard about the walls of Jericho. It's in Joshua. The first half dozen or so chapters in the book of Joshua talk about the walls of Jericho. An interesting thing is some people don't realize that when the Israelites crossed the Jordan River, God stopped it from flowing, and so they could all get across. And we don't know how many there were, but it was probably close to 1 million people. And they got across, or 500,000, who knows. Anyway, they got across, and then the river, God released the water, and it flowed again. So that kind of scared all the Canaanites, because the promised land, before they got there, it was called the land of Canaan. And so the Bible says their hearts melted when they heard about that. Well, when they crossed the river, there was the city of Jericho, and it had walls around it, and according to what geologists people say, they were pretty high walls, and there were two walls, and so it was pretty hard to penetrate. And so Joshua sent a couple of guys to spy out what it was like, and so they snuck into the city, and while they were there, somebody noticed that they were not Canaanites, and so they I don't know how they did it, but they scampered up the wall, see if they could get away, and they hid in the house that belonged to a harlot named Rahab, and so she hid them, and then pretty soon here come the guys up there, the soldiers. And they said, we saw him come in here, and she said, now, this is how I told it in Sunday school, okay? And so she said, yeah, and it's in the Bible, you can read it yourself, but anyway, she said, yes, but I let him down, but it was just a few minutes ago, and if you hurry, you can catch him. So they hurried, and once everything settled down, and they were out looking for the guys, then she lowered them down, and they went and hid in the mountains for a couple of days. So, but she had made a deal with them that if she would save their lives, because she heard about the Israelites and how they were moving in. And by the way, here we're coming up to the trenches that they dug, and in this one here, they've already filled it in with they've covered up the sewer pipes, and they're still ready to do the the water pipes. So it looks like they're tapered a little bit more than I've noticed before. So anyway, well, we'll look at all of them here and take a look at it. And so anyway, so in the meantime, Joshua, who was new at the job, because at the end of Deuteronomy, God took Moses home. So he's just mind own business, and this, I think it was a high-level angel. It was called the Prince of the host of Jehovah. So anyway, so Joshua looked at him and scared to death, and so he told him, take off your shoes, you're on holy ground. And so he told him what to do. He said, you go circle the city for 6 days, go have your soldiers go around it and circle the city once and come back to camp. And then on the seventh day, have the priest blow trumpets and lead the group, and then but go around the city 7 times. And at the end of the 7th times, blow the trumpets and shout, and you'll see what happens. So that's what they did. And by the way, Rahab, they promised they would protect her and her family. So anyway, the first day, they rounded up. It said there were 40,000 soldiers, and they marched around the city one time and went back to camp. Well, you can imagine what the people in the city of Jericho, they heard they weren't blowing a trumpet yet, but they were just going around, and they showed, here comes 40,000 soldiers. And so all the soldiers that were in Jericho, they climbed up on the walls, and they're getting ready to defend the city because these guys are coming up. And so because when they get up on the wall, they have their arrows, and they shoot down, and you've probably seen it in the movies. Anyway, and they would throw stones down on top of them, water balloons, anything they had. That's how I taught it in Sunday school anyway. So they would throw stuff down and kill them, so when they get close enough to the wall. And so they're up there. Well, the guys just went around the city and went back home, went back to the campground. And so then the soldiers get down off the wall, and everything is fine, and they all wonder now what's going on, And the second day, early in the morning, here comes 40,000 guys making dust and everything, coming up to the city, and they start going around the city, and so all the soldiers in Jericho, they climb up on the wall with their rocks and water balloons and everything, and so then they're ready to throw stuff down on these guys if they get close to the wall, but they just go back to camp. And the third day, same thing, and so the soldiers say, these guys are nuts, And so they have somebody go up and check, and they just go around the camp once and go back home. And that goes on for 6 days. And so on the sixth day, it's like nobody goes up to the wall much. And so they all just say, well, it's the same. Those guys, those Israelites, there's something crazy about those guys. So anyway, then on the seventh day, here they come, and this time they've got the priests with their trumpets and 40,000 troops, and at the end of the line they have the Ark of the Covenant of God. And so they're marching around the city, and everybody says, oh, there they are, big deal. But this time, instead of going back to camp, they start around a second time. And the guys up on the wall say, hey, guys, come here, grab your water balloons, get up here, quick. And they're going around the wall again, and they're saying, now what's going on, And so then instead of going home, they go around the wall a third time. And everybody's kind of wondering what is going on. These guys are crazy. And by the way, you can see that some of those trenches are terraced over there. We're going to go take a closer look at that. But I don't know. When I was looking at it before, I don't think they were digging quite so deep. And by the way, they didn't have to dig so deep, this far away from. See, the sewer line runs down the road over by that other construction site. So these guys don't have to go so deep because they've got a long way to drain the water, because there's only one sewer treatment plant in the area, and so the farther away you are, the less deep you have to dig. That might be the reason why they didn't quite dig so deep. So anyway, so now the guys have gone around 6 times, and now all the people in the city, they're crowding up to see what's going on, and I mean, it's just really crowded up on top of the wall, and so the Israelites, they sneak around and they come around, or they sneak around, they march around. I'm watching the video and talking at the same time. So they march around, and now they get there around 7 times, and they stop. And then everybody's on the wall, And then like that, the high-ranking angel said, and then blow your trumpets and have the priests blow their trumpets and shout. And so they blew their trumpets, and the people shouted. And the Bible says the walls fell down flat. Now, I don't know how they protected Rahab. By the way, I've got an audio book that has the same story in it, but I'll put a link to that in the description. But anyway, so, and it's free. So the walls, the Bible says they fell down flat, which means that they didn't crumple down. They fell over flat. So all the guys on top of the wall, I mean, they were slammed into the ground. And then it was easy for the Israelite soldiers to go in and wipe out anybody that was left alive, except there were the two guys that had gone up to Rahab's house. They found Rahab and her family and got her out safely. And then all the gold and the silver and everything, Joshua said, that don't keep any of that. That goes into the account for the offerings and stuff. And so that's how it worked out. Rahab was saved. And by the way, I don't know if you know it or not, but it's interesting. She married a guy, and King David's great grandmother and grandfather. So it's amazing what God can do with a sinful woman who is protected by God because she trusts in him. And the same thing is true with you. If you haven't trusted Jesus with your life, there's a wall between you and God, and the only way to get through that wall, you can't knock it down or anything. Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." And if you want to go through that wall, you trust Jesus and put your trust. I'll put a verse in the description that if you have any questions, you can email me, make a comment in the comments and stuff. But that's an interesting story. I always enjoy telling it my way. And so I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you'll consider putting all your trust in Jesus, so that someday, 100 years from now, you'll be in heaven and not in hell. I want to thank you for watching my video, and God bless.